Stillwater, Nevada. Stillwater is in Churchill County. That's really the question. I say is. The internet says was. And obviously, if it's on the internet, it has got to be true, right? Well, okay. I went to Stillwater. It is not what I pictured a ghost town to be. Being the first one I went to, I was expecting old abandoned buildings with a sort of Wild West feel. Clearly, my impression was wrong. People still live in Stillwater. So what is a ghost town? According to dictionary.com, a ghost town is a town permanently abandoned by its inhabitants, as because of a business decline or because a nearby mine has been worked out. According to that definition, Stillwater is not actually a ghost town. Has the population in Stillwater declined? Yes. According to the Division of Historic Preservation and Archaeology in Nevada, when the county seat was removed to Fallon in 1904, barely 36 residents remained. There looks to be about that amount, or slightly less, now. To figure out how many there are, I decided to look up the census data. What came up was a page that said nobody lived there. I saw with my eyes that was clearly wrong. Hysterically, under the declaration that no one lives there, there was a link for homes for sale in the area. But what do you expect when you source Wikipedia? I found that the reason someone might say no one lives there is that they are unaware. For the purposes of population count, Stillwater is counted as part of Fallon. And if they hadn't gone there themselves, then the fact that all public services had been closed at Stillwater would imply the town is gone. You could probably argue that it doesn't count as an official town because they have no public services. No school, no courthouse, no post office, no police station. But if that's the case, all unincorporated towns in America are technically ghost towns, which is obviously not the case. I mentioned the Division of Historic Preservation and Archaeology. Here's what they had to say in full about Stillwater. Stillwater's beginning predates Nevada's advent to statehood by 2 years. Named for the large pools of tranquil water nearby, the town originated as an overland stage station in 1862, was granted a post office in 1865, and became Churchill's third county seat in 1868. Farmers developed one of the state's first irrigation systems to supply booming mining camps with produce. The community population peaked in 1880, and when the county seat was removed to Fallon in 1904, barely 36 residents remained. The National Wildlife Refuge of 22,000 acres of wetland habitat, natural breeding, and feeding grounds for waterfowl was created in 1948. The Stillwater Indian Reservation adjoins the reserve. Although their community center has disappeared, the valley's lush fields and abundant crops attest to the untiring efforts of Stillwater's pioneer ranchers and their descendants who met the desert's challenge with dedication and determination. To those who survived and those who did not, we pledge our remembrance. I find it weird that they would put this up in a place where people still live. David A. Wright submitted this to ghosttowns.com. A small population found the stagnant sink of the Carson River to be a good place to live in 1862 and began to settle and farm. By 1865, a post office opened and the town slowly grew. In 1868, the Nevada legislature deemed Stillwater the county seat of Churchill County, and the town grew with the addition of government-based buildings. Inexplicably, the town declined after 1870, enough to close the post office, but the seat of the government continued to function here. By 1877, Stillwater grew again, enough to warrant the reopening of the post office, and a small town dominated by the wooden courthouse included stores, hotels, saloons, ice house, restaurants, hay yard, and a school. Stillwater was eclipsed by nearby Fallon by 1904, and the seat of the government was moved there. Stillwater became as stagnant as its waters, and the town declined and then ghosted. Today, Stillwater as a town is dead, although the area has a steady population that own and work alfalfa ranches, and is part of the greater Fallon area. So he at least covers that people are still living there. And driving around, I saw a few things, a few abandoned homes and buildings, the most prominent being the old school. There's a house next to it that's abandoned and falling apart. According to Nathan Bailey's ForgottenNevada.org page for Stillwater, he believed it was the home of the teacher. But in walking around the school, I'm not sure how abandoned it actually is. The decorative trees out in front had Christmas lights in them, like the modern kind, not the old big ones. It has a collage of children's pictures in it that looks relatively recent. There's a modern janitor's bucket, and while it's not in amazing shape, it's not falling apart. I think it might still be getting used somehow. Maybe not as a school, but in some way. I don't personally see Stillwater as a ghost town. It has just been absorbed by Fallon. That does not a ghost town make, to me. But, as it has been included by the internet, which we've previously established doesn't lie, and the government, which we also know does not ever lie in the history of ever, as a ghost town, I felt that as part of my due diligence, I need to include it in the ghost towns of Nevada. So, if you're looking for old buildings from the Old West or 1930s, Stillwater probably isn't the place for you. If you're looking for a really removed place to live and be left alone, Stillwater is probably a great place for you.